This year's Classic Physique Olympia is going to be the biggest competition ever.
Chris, Brian, Wesley, Stefan, Urs,
Ramon.
Last year, Chris Bumstead wasn't at his best.
Last year, Chris was off.
He struggled with injuries, and now every competitor is hungry to take his crown. But one name stands out.
The Dutch Oak has arrived.
Wesley Vissers. This year, Wesley is coming for the top spot, and he just might be the one to finally take down Chris. And I'm going to tell you why.
What do you consider Chris's weakness?
So he...
Wesley Vissers has been improving dramatically in the last few years. After winning the Arnold Classic and beating Ramon Dino, Wesley gained the confidence he needed.
As you know, I was 7th at the Olympia. Everybody pretty much thought Ramon was going to take it.
Technically speaking, he beat the second best men's classic physique competitor in the world. He did win by almost seemed like a lot.
Winning the Arnold gave me the logical belief that it's possible. I beat everybody there except Chris.
He even said he believes he can beat Chris Bumstead this year.
Can you sit there and say, I can beat Chris Bumstead this year?
Yes. I really honestly think it's possible. I really do think so. If I peak perfectly, if I'm better than the Arnold, better proportion, if my presentation is top notch, if I just never slip up on stage, so hold the pose, just don't show any weakness at all next to Chris, it's gonna be possible. So the goal is to give Chris Bumstead the toughest battle so far. When I'm standing next to him, then you will see the truth. And also, I am a better bodybuilder now than the Arnold Classic. I can confidently say that. I worked on the weaker areas or the areas to fill in more, to be more proportionate.
What makes Wesley a serious threat to Chris is his wide structure. He's tall and imposing on stage.
Looks incredible. He has that aesthetic physique that so many men want to look like.
Some might say his frame gives him an edge, especially since a lot of Chris's competitors are shorter and not as heavy.
The impact that standing next to those guys actually had, that they could see the size difference that was there. So when I stood there in the front legs, you could see the definition in the leg.
While Wesley's legs might not be as big, they are more striated than Chris's.
The way I positioned my legs, it wasn't really that pleasing, so I made it more pleasing.
Fill up the legs and lose some separation just to create the space. You did something to make your legs look bigger. Legs are shredded. Your body is shredded from every angle, so you don't have to convince judges of conditioning, but you might have to present the angles in some poses. You can probably overwhelm him in the width of the lats.
And when it comes to his back, there is a lot to pick on that could work in Wesley's favor.
So what happens when you turn to the back double bicep?
In the back double bicep, you can see no blurring of the shoulders. What people think right now is that my lower body is going to be exposed, but as always, presentation can be drastically changed the way you showcase yourself on stage.
Even the judges mentioned that Ramon Dino beat Chris in the back double biceps pose.
Ramon beat Chris Bumstead, according to Tyler Mannion, in the back double biceps last year.
Wesley is also smart. He clearly knows a lot about bodybuilding and understands exactly what he's doing. He understands bodybuilding perfectly. His analyses are brilliant. He is calm, humble, and intelligent.
First pose from double bicep, I'm very confident I can win that pose. So I can win the first pose already. And then you move to the side chest, which for him is a strength. But I think when I stand next to him, it's also not going to be such a super dominant pose anymore.
Turning into the abs and thighs.
It's going to be the most difficult pose to defeat Chris. I know that's going to be very difficult for me to beat him in that pose. If I would have to pick any pose that he's going to beat me in, that would be it. But then again, as Tyler also explained which poses are allowed, one of them is of course the regular vacuum pose.
I think his ab and thigh, the vacuum is great. He has a great structure for that pose, but I'm not so sure about the actual abdominal wall. I'm not sure that's total strength.
What do you consider Chris's weakness?
He can get very conditioned, but there's nobody who has the amount of deep cuts and striations that I have, for example, in the legs, which will be exposed when you stand next to Chris, who has injured muscles, like in the hamstring, the quads, the shoulder biceps. All of that I do have. So I have all the clean muscles, the clean lines, every single detail. And then when you stand next to Chris and actually be taller, be heavier, it's gonna be a tough battle. He isn't perfect. No one is perfect. Once I stand next to him, I just want to overpower his weaknesses. And my weaknesses won't be so easily overpowered by his strengths.
I think he pushes a lot of pressure in that rhomboid area.
Milos.
And lean back more, and it creates a different illusion for him. I'm telling you.
I want to say this, but example, Jay was there 99, stage decoration, and then 2000 he was like 8, and then you guys went to a European tour, but then he played second to Ronnie twice. Apparently, right there, for the first time, he sensed, I can beat Ronnie. That's 2000. And he comes back 2001 and almost beat him. And that's that self-belief, right? That's untouchable Ronnie. Wesley is in that position, right? You have to not be content with the second place.
Even bodybuilding legend Donon Colman, who recently trained with Wesley, said Wesley can beat Chris Bumstead this year.
People have to be ready for anything. You go into these shows and you expect it to go a certain way, and then a guy comes out of nowhere and then just dominates. Remember Donon Colman? He did the same thing. He wasn't even in the top 5, and then he come out and won, and then he was all of a sudden 8-time Mr. Olympia champion. So picture this. Imagine Wesley comes back at the Olympia and Chris is a little bit off, or he retires, who knows. And then Wesley wins. Imagine if Wesley becomes the next 8-time champion. You never know. Like, we're all thinking Ramon Dino, which makes sense. This guy looks incredible. But all of a sudden a new guy comes. When a sport has an upset like that, like a big upset, if somebody comes out of nowhere and wins, it makes it so much more exciting.
But let me ask you a question. Even if Wesley was better, do you think the IFBB would just let him win? We've seen it before with other competitors where judges thought the runner-up should not just beat the champion, but they should knock him down by a big difference. Would the same thing happen to Wesley this year? Now, Chris Bumstead is no stranger to winning. He's been the poster boy for classic physique for years. His structure is near perfect, and he's been super dominant in every competition.
We all know when Chris is in shape, he's gonna win.
But last year, Chris wasn't at his best.
Last year, Chris was off.
He tore his lat and wasn't able to train properly. Over the years, Chris had several injuries, and last year it showed. A hamstring, a bicep, a lat. So Chris wasn't at his best, he still managed to win. But this year, it's going to be tough for him. Many competitors like Wesley, Ramon, and Brian Ertz are coming stronger and better.
Or if Chris had have competed and didn't bring his best A game, like maybe his second best physique, I think Wesley would have beat him. I still think if it was on, that he would still beat Wesley, but it's certainly bringing the gaps a lot closer, and Wesley is bigger than Chris.
Chris will need to bring his absolute best if he wants to keep his title.
Last year, Wesley wasn't on the map like he is this year. So I think Chris is training this much harder because he knows Wesley's coming.
I believe this will be the best Chris Bumstead we've ever seen on stage, and possibly his last year competing.
This might be Chris's last Olympia. Now, whoever places second, if Chris wins his last one, is the front runner for next year.
But Wesley Vissers is coming in with a strong chance to take the title. He's improved so much, and his recent updates proves he's ready. Plus, the crowd would love to see a new champion on stage. And let's not forget about Ramon Dino either. He's another one to watch. I have a feeling Ramon will bring his best shape this year as well. In the end, it's going to be tough Olympia for Chris. Many athletes can win the show, and Wesley Vissers is definitely one of them. Could this be the year we see a new classic physique champion? Only time will tell. Other than that, thanks for watching. We'll catch you up in the next video.